Hello everyone. We're getting ready to get started on our next page in Unit 2. We will be evaluating expressions, so you need to start with a clean piece of notebook paper. The title, Evaluating Expressions. This is going to be page 5 in our notebook. Now we are going to go to your handout with key information. If it needs to be trimmed a little bit, please give it a little trim. Some of the pages are cut better than others. All right, we will glue this in a minute. All right, so the key word here is evaluate. We are evaluating expressions. Please copy what I write down. Now for evaluating, a general definition is we are plugging in a value. We are plugging in a value. Now what this looks like, a characteristic of it, they would say if x equals 2, then, and they're going to give you an expression, 3x squared plus 2x plus 15 is ... Okay, so that's the type of problem. They're giving you a value and then you need to put a replacement value in. So let's look at an example on our note taker. It might say, evaluate x squared plus 7 for x equals 2. So what this means, we are plugging in x equals 2 for every place there's an x. So for our replacement values, we always put them in parentheses. So I had x here, and now I'm putting a 2 where there's x. Now I have to put plus 7. So in this step, we just plugged in. Now in the next step, we are going to simplify. 2 squared means 2 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4. Plus 7 makes 11. So I have just simplified that mathematic. Now, the next thing I would like to do is look at non-examples. So they might give you an example. Simplify pi times 16 squared. Well, pi is just a number. We cannot put another value in for it. We can't plug a value in. And 16, there's no place to plug in a value. So this is not a problem where we will evaluate. Let's try another example. This is not an evaluate problem. They might say simplify, and remember yesterday we talked about 3 monomials make a trinomial. So we might have x squared minus 3x plus 2 added, so plus x squared plus x subtract 5. So those are examples and non-examples of our evaluate expressions. So now what we're going to do is we are going to glue this. Now I want you to get it right under that top line because we are going to put more information underneath. So I want it as high up here as possible on the top of the page. And let's go right over, make it flush with the left red color. Okay, so I'm going to go back and put my G back there. Evaluating expressions. So let's look at an example. All right, I'm going to go right underneath what I just glued in. I'm going to put EX for example. Now, they might say, evaluate. This is our expression. 2x squared plus 3 minus y divided by, that's a fraction bar, x, y. When, now here they are giving us what has to be plugged in. When x equals 2 and y equals 4. Those are our replacement values. So the first step we're going to do, we're going to plug them in. Now, I use parentheses where I'm plugging in my values. So I start with the coefficient of 2, and now I'm plugging in for x. I'm plugging in x equals 2. So I will have 2 squared plus 3, that did not have a variable, subtract my replacement value for y is 4. And I put my replacement values in parentheses. Now let's look at the denominator. For x, I'm putting a value 2. For y, I'm putting a value of 4. Now we're going to simplify that. All right, please remember when we simplify expressions, we need to follow PEMDAS or GEMDAS. Some students learned GEMDAS, excuse me, or PEMDAS. And this was just your order of operations, grouping, exponents, multiplication and division from left to right, addition and subtraction. So we will do our 2 squared first. We will simplify that. 2 squared is 4, plus 3, subtract 4. On the bottom, 2 times 4. Now I'm going to go to the right. This is going to equal 8. 2 times 4 is 8. I just rewrite plus 3, subtract 4. And I can do my multiplication in the denominator, 2 times 4, is 8. Now I will add from left to right. I do 8 plus 3 is 11. 11 subtract 4 makes 7. And 8 is already simplified in the denominator. So that's our answer. But the good news is, you will not have to do this type of problem because of the way we can use Desmos. We are going to be doing similar to yesterday, but not exactly, because they have given us the replacement values for our variables. So we're going to glue in two things now. Okay, first thing we're going to do, we have a little white piece of paper. We're going to glue it. Let me see if I can zoom out. We're going to glue it on the bottom left, and we want to save room for the orange one to the right. Remember, orange cards are always our Desmos instructions. Okay? So let's get our glue sticks and glue these onto the paper. Okay. So we are going to use Desmos to help us evaluate an expression. So here on the left, we have the expression 3 multiplied with x to the 7th, y cubed, z squared, multiplied with x squared, z cubed. So they have given us the replacement values. We want to say Desmos, exclamation point, exclamation point. Because this is a pretty complicated problem to get it right when you have replacement values like x equals 1/2, y equals 3, z. Now I always put a line down the middle of my z so that it can't be recognized or confused with a 2. So x equals 1/2, y equals 3, z equals 4. We're going to follow the same steps that we did yesterday, where we are going to match our instructions for Desmos with what's going on in the example on this white piece of paper. So number 1, you will type the expression into line 1 of Desmos. That's what we did for simplifying. And we must use sub 1 for all x and all y. Underline that, please, for all x and all y. So that is such an important fact. We are going to circle this x1, that y1, x1, and we are going to make little stars and draw an arrow to these values. x1, y1. Pull out your highlighter. Very important. If you do not get add sliders, then you have forgotten the one.